On September 19th, Kwantlen Polytechnic University's Creative Writing Department hosted the Three Poets book launch in the Surrey Library. The writers featured were Renée Sarojini Saklikar, Currin, and Nina Mosall.
Hi, I'm Renée Sarojini Saklikar, and my book is called Brahma's Quest. It's an epic fantasy in verse that's just been released by BC's own Nightwood Editions, and I am a creative writing instructor at KPU.
My name is Jen Currin. My pronouns are they, them. I am a creative writing instructor and also co-chair of the creative writing department, and the book I've just published is a book of poems called Trinity Street.
My name is Nina Mosall, and my book is called Bebakshid. And I am Iranian, Canadian, and my book is kind of surrounding that identity and women, immigration, refugee community, culture.
All three poets read a few poems from their own books, followed by a Q&A from the audience. The audience was made up of current KPU students, friends of the writers, and KPU alumni, including Carol Johnson.
My name is Carol Johnson, and I'm an alumni of the creative writing program here at KPU.
Johnson spoke about some poems that stood out to her during the reading.
It was certainly Jen's earlier readings today. There's so much honesty. Those particular early poems of Jen's really struck me as being a beautiful example how poetry can bring a truth into the world and also move people. Yeah.
During their poetry reading, Currin mentioned they hadn't read to an audience much before about their non-binary identity.
I think it's a deep identity, and it takes a lot to think about how I want to write about it. So for example, I have some stories in my collection that's coming out that deal with non-binary characters, but you have to kind of know something very deeply to be able to write it. And so I think it's just taken me a long time to come to have the ability to articulate how I want to write about non-binariness, and I imagine that will continue to evolve and change.
Sarojini Saklikar had not written an epic fantasy prior to this book. She speaks to how she ended up publishing in a new genre.
So two things really led me to epic fantasy in verse. And the first thing was I realized as a fairly serious published poet, teaching poetry and writing poetry in other genres, that my bedtime reading, my fun reading was often fantasy. I love magic, I love time travel, I love all the key elements of epic fantasy. And as I started kind of plotting out, wow, maybe I'll write a sci-fi spec fic fantasy, I started interacting with my students, and students are really a driver in my interest in the genre.
Bebakshid is Mosall's debut poetry collection that tackles the intersections between their identities of being Iranian, an immigrant, and a woman. Mosall reminisces of her first distinct memory of writing poetry.
My first distinct memory of writing a poem was probably in grade, I think 4, where I wrote a poem. I brought it to my teacher, and she read it in front of me, and she started crying, and she was like, "This is so beautiful," and she's like, "I really hope that you continue writing." And I think that put a seed into my head of, oh, like, she took me seriously. This is like something I'm maybe good at, and maybe I should think about it more. And I think that kind of encouraged me to keep going. That was the first inkling, I would say. Yeah.
Bebakshid, Brahma's Quest, and Trinity Street are all available to purchase through KPU's website. And that's the run-through for this week at KPU.